All right, let's hop right into this.
Let's get into it.
So we kind of start early on with a band called Sekimatsu. That's how you pronounce it. It looks like Sekimatsu, but you pronounce it Sekimatsu. It's a pun.
Yeah, basically the kanji that make up their names are the Sekima part, and then the two is just meant to be read Su, so Sekimatsu.
So what does it mean?
So it's the actual individual kanji for Sekima are like holy, starve, and demon. But once you combine it with the Tsu, Sekimatsu means the end of the century. And so their whole shtick when they debuted was that they were basically a group of demons come to Earth to spread satanic teachings through their black masses, which are just what they call their concerts. And so they said from the very beginning that at the end of the century, they will have conquered the world and they were going to dissolve at that point. And so on December 31st, 1999, they announced their breakup because they conquered the world and they were done. So good on them for sticking to their story, but then they kind of ruined it a little bit by having reunions afterward. But they're a band.
What you can see from this picture, you can tell that there's a lot of Kiss influence here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
They're definitely a heavy metal band, which we'll show in this clip. But I guess their difference from Kiss is that they kind of have that cool backstory. So we're gonna have short performance clips for pretty much all of these bands that we'll show you guys just to kind of get an idea of what the bands are like if you haven't heard of them.
That's Demon Kogure. He's perhaps the most famous member.
He commentates sumo now.
I love Sekimatsu there, and then all these normies in the crowd just like, yeah.
So that is Sekimatsu, and now for their game. Which, as far as I can tell, is one of the earliest games that involves like a Japanese band or musician, since this one was Famicom 1986. And how bad is this game?
It's an early Metroidvania style game, and it sucks. It's published by CBS Sony, who also gave us classics like Paris Dakar Rally Special, which is another really, really amazing game. They didn't really publish anything good.
No.
And this, well, it keeps to the, demonic, quasi-satanic themes, but it plays like garbage.
Yeah, and your enemy in this game is Zeus, as you can see from the picture on the right there. And you're basically just trying to rescue, you're Demon Kogure, the singer, and you're trying to rescue band members from Zeus, basically. And just so you guys get an idea of what this plays like.
Oh man, those authentic music representations.
Right, this game has no Sekimatsu songs in it at all. This is just a horrible song that loops over and over again on short loops. And the reason this is my gameplay, and the reason I'm moving around so clunky like that is because you can't just jump and do a diagonal to control the trajectory of your jump. You have to jump and then hit the direction that you want to move in, it just makes it awful to play.
Oof. Yeah. So this isn't the only game Sekimatsu has been involved in. There's also Kaneko's DJ Boy for arcades. Now, in the US version, they got Wolfman Jack to do some of the voiceovers and announcements. For a Japanese version, it's Demon Kogure who's doing all the voices. Also, don't play DJ Boy. It has not aged well
No.
in many respects.
It has
We're not
some
going to talk
things
about
in it.
Yeah. There's also, I kind of found this one out last minute. There's also a Demon Kogure quiz game for the Laser Active LD ROM edition. So you need the PC Engine add-on for the Pioneer Laser Active in order to play this goofy Demon Kogure quiz game.
And I didn't even know
I found
about
this out like last night. I was like, I could have sworn there was a Demon Kogure quiz game, and I went looking for it for days, and I finally found the damn thing, and it's like, crap, it's too late to put it in.
So if anybody wants to play this, all you need is like $2,000 for a Laser Active, and you're all set.
And if you can find the game, Laser Active games are not easy to find, especially Japan exclusives.
Yeah. All right. So we'll move on here. To the next
the big one. You probably
guys
know
all
these
know
guys.
these guys, right? Is there anybody here who doesn't know X Japan? You don't know X Japan? Okay. Well, basically, they are probably Japan's most influential heavy metal band. They had a huge following before they even got signed to a label. Their sound is kind of like speed or power metal meets like classical almost. And
Yeah, they do a lot of speed stuff, and they also do a lot of
piano,
hard ballads.
Yeah, piano, which is maybe what they're most known for. But and then they ushered in the Visual Kei movement too, pretty much.
So
which you can
what
kinda
is
see.
Visual Kei? Visual Kei is kind of what you see here. If you have seen the 80s in Japan, everybody was kind of boring, buttoned down, like single color fashions, just no hair colors. Maybe you'd poof your hair up a little bit if you wanted to stand out. But Visual Kei was like dress up as elaborately as possible, color your hair, just make it go wild, look like you stepped out of a Final Fantasy game here.
And so, like most Visual Kei bands that get popular, they eventually just moved away from that completely and just started looking more like a regular rock band. So if you go to see them now, they broke up and got back together again, so they are still active. But if you see them now, they won't look anything like you see them in this picture.
Well, really the only one I know of that's like touring globally is Yoshiki.
Currently, yeah. They stop again, start again. But real quick, let me. This is a clip from their last live from when they broke up the first time, and they're not very Visual Kei looking at all here, so you can kind of see what I mean. Except for Hide. Hide was always Visual Kei.
Yeah, he kept that going up to the end. Yeah, if you want to listen to some Japanese rock music and just, want a good entry point, X Japan is it.
For sure. And so they have a game, of course, which is X Japan Virtual Shock 1 on the Saturn. As the title implies, there are rumors that this was supposed to be a series. The Japanese Wikipedia article says that A Game magazine, not really saying which one, apparently printed some news about it at some point, but it just kind of went away. Probably because X Japan deteriorated as a band and because the Saturn, we all kind of know what happened to the Saturn. And then the name Virtual Shock is sort of a take on a long-held X Japan slogan, which is psychedelic violence, crime of visual shock, which they used as their slogan for a long time.
It's also funny just given some of the Mega Drive ads.
That's true. Yeah, that's very true.
I just thought of that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Damn it, we should put that in there.
So what is this game?
It is an adventure game, an FMV adventure game that has a lot of Westerners in it for some reason.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, you're going backstage to try and meet X Japan, but you're only really going to meet one of them and just see clips of the others.
Yeah, and you are just given a job as a journalist in this. You're just backstage trying to get into the concert, and you are handed a camera and a backstage pass and given a job, basically. That's how that works, right? That's how you become a journalist?
Yeah, and figuring out how to get into the rooms is kind of the big gameplay
It
point,
is.
and it doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, it doesn't. And there are only two ways you can get a game over, so really this is just a game of trying to figure out conditions to progress to the next thing. You can run into a certain security guard to get a game over who will catch you and shut you down, or this can happen. This is the lead up.
We have wine, bourbon, and Japanese sake.
And so the setup for this is you've been instructed by a staff member to get alcohol for Hide. But there's only one of these that he wants.
Here's your bourbon.
And it's not going to be bourbon.
I love her face. What am I doing here? I've made mistakes.
The FMV kind of comes in chunks like this. When you hit a direction, you just get another kind of clip of it. So he hasn't had bourbon in a long time, is what he said.
Man, he
He wanted the sake, in case anyone wants to know. You get to drink with him if you pick the sake. He really takes a liking to you and like pours you a glass and whatnot.
will you continue? Yeah, man, it's just weird seeing footage of Hide. He passed away 20 years ago. Pretty sad stuff, but
Yeah.
his solo stuff is also really good
It's
too.
extremely good. It's pretty different from X Japan, but if you like X Japan, you should probably check it out too, just in case it's your kind of thing. You wanted like industrial and all kinds of different stuff. But we will move on to the next one here, who is Tetsuya Komuro.
Tetsuya Komuro, he is a very famous music producer in Japan, probably one of the most successful music producers you don't know about because he's not from an English-speaking country. He has worked with untold amounts of Japanese talent. His most famous gig is probably TM Network, who were also featured somewhat in the Street Fighter animated movie.
And had a game on the Famicom too, which we don't unfortunately have on the list for this, but this is a picture of TM Network here. TK is the one on the left.
So he also had his own game. Yes, a producer got his own name. This is Gabal Screen. This game is... I don't know what this is. So basically, you play as a shoe. It's literally a walking simulator. I don't know if it's Tetsuya Komuro's shoes, but in the intro, you see him playing his synthesizer, then getting up and leaving, and all of a sudden, just the shoes come to life, and the synth spits out a ton of CDs, and the shoes just go these different weird worlds with no real dialogue that are based on these songs he produced, and you have to do things. It defies description, and I actually didn't want to show video because, like, I want you all to play this. There's not a big language barrier for this one. This is the kind of game that could only have existed at this time on the PS1 in 1996. But if you can't play it, I mean, there are means by which you can play it. But if you just want to watch a playthrough, the Retro Pals did one a while back, and they have it on their YouTube channel. You should definitely check that out. It was extremely funny seeing them go through this for the first time.
And they're really good streamers, just in general.
Oh,
so
yeah.
They're a lot of fun. All right. And sort of related to TK, actually, is one of the more notable people that he produced in the 90s, Namie Amuro. She started in a pop group called the Super Monkeys in 1992 and kind of broke away from them as the star real quick. And TK kind of took her on as one of his main acts in 1995. And I mean, she's continued to be popular in one way or another pretty much her entire career. She retired like last year. I mean, she's been called like the Japanese queen of pop. She kind of invented the gyaru style, if anybody is familiar with that. She's just had a lot of influences on a lot of things when it comes to pop music. And I just have a clip from one of her music videos here real quick. This is her debut.
So, how much did that sound like literally like every anime theme after 1995?
I hadn't thought about it, but you're right.
Yeah, she had a long-lasting influence on just the Japanese sound up until about the turn of the century.
When she actually moved away from TK and went more in like an R&B direction. And started really producing her own career and whatnot. She still stayed popular. She just wasn't popular in the same circles, I guess. I don't know. And of course, she has a game, Digital Dance Mix Amuro Namie, which was a Saturn sort of rhythm game.
Sort of? Yu Suzuki produced this, by the way.
And
this
who knows
is
why?
Perhaps his least known game aside of like championship boxing for the SG 300.
So I'm going to show this real quick. The audio is low on this one for some reason, but basically this is the game. Like the only thing I'm controlling in this capture footage is the camera panning. I'm not doing anything else at all. Just watching this happen.
Loving that recycled Virtua Fighter Kids model there.
Oh God, it is, isn't it?
It totally is.
So that actually blows one of my theories out of the water because, well, I guess that's the recycled Virtua Fighter Kids model, but you can pick another, like you saw on the previous screen, you can pick one that looks more like her, but my theory is this has like no gameplay because they wasted all their time on the model and like getting it to move right.
Well, this was made like super quickly. Like half of AM2 was working on Fighting Vipers, and then they made Fighters Megamix super fast, and this came out around the same time. Yep.
I recall a lot of speculation on Assembler Games forum back in the way old days. People were looking at digital media mix, digital dance mix, and thinking that model looks like animation capture from Virtua Fighter 3.
You could be onto something there because VF3 did have a lot of motion capture, and they did do some, I think they were doing some for Fighting Vipers 2 around the same time. Hey, I got to talk about Fighting Vipers 2 this panel.
Yeah, your obligatory mention.
Yes.
All right, so on from Namie Amuro to probably somebody a lot of people don't know. Does anybody know who Hotei is here? All right, we got a few people. So the theme of a couple different artists here is going to be like how ridiculously popular they are in Japan versus like how no one in the West knows who they are at all and has never even heard their names. Hotei is definitely one of them. So he's a pretty legendary guitarist and vocalist who debuted with a band called Bowie back in 1982. Yeah, so he was the guitarist for Bowie. And then in 1988, when they broke up, he went right into a solo career and has pretty much never stopped since, and is, you could argue even eclipsed Bowie, since. So there's one song of his that almost everyone in here will know, even if you don't know Hotei. If you've seen the first Kill Bill movie, or you've watched any commercials or movies from around that time, There's a song called Battle Without Honor Humanity that he composed and was just used in so much media, and this is a clip of a live performance of it. So he has a game too that maybe some people here know this one. I feel like this has gotten some amount of infamy. His name's not in the title in most instances that you see this, but it's there on the box. It's Stolen Song for the PS1. And does anybody here know the Quest for Fame game also on the PS1 that featured Aerosmith? That is a game. I'm not just making that up. It's kind of an FMV rhythm game that came before this by the same company, Virtual Music Entertainment. And this is basically just that same engine, but now it's Hotei. And all the FMV stuff recorded as Hotei and his band, and you're playing Hotei songs and whatnot.
So do we know if this is a US or Japan developer?
You know, that's a really good question.
I couldn't really find out because
there's no
the
information
Aerosmith game
on
is
them at all.
is all the dialogue and stuff is in English, so it's like I thought it was a Western developer and was just ported to the PS in Japan and given a bunch of Japanese subtitles, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know this for sure. I would believe it was a Western developer that was like one of the first companies to do something like this, and then they just saw the Aerosmith game and were like, hey, we want that, but for Hotei. Because there were like Windows 95 ports of these two games too, from what I understand. And they both came with a VPIC peripheral, which is basically just a really large plastic guitar pick that plugs into controller port number 2 that you can use just to play the rhythm part, or the rhythm game parts, if you want to. Otherwise, it's just hitting a single button.
That's one to add
on
to
the
your
controller through it.
weird peripherals
Yeah,
collection.
Yeah, I don't see that one come up too often. But like we said, it's a rhythm game and it's an FMV, and you kind of get a little bit of both here.
Yeah, and so much of this is in English too.
There's a lot of English in it. And I didn't realize it, but the guitar sound is like way louder than the music. You can adjust that, but I didn't.
So is this all recorded for the game, or is this taken from something?
So this is from, he had a tour called the Space Cowboy Tour that I think was like 1997. So the live footage is all just repurposed footage from that, and then the FMV stuff, because there's all this story stuff. Basically the story is you're a guitarist who wins an audition to record a demo in Hotei's cyber studio. Ooh. And he gets kidnapped, and you have to rescue him. So there's like a whole bunch of story stuff around that part of it, even though that's kind of not represented here. But yeah, it was not recorded specifically for this game, but good if you like cheesy FMV games for sure.
Boy, do I ever.
And so this is my my section here, I guess. So continuing on with the Hotei theme of an extremely popular band that no one in the West knows who they are, the Yellow Monkey. Does anybody here know the Yellow Monkey? All right, again, we got probably the same 3 people who raised their hands for Hotei. They are my favorite band, bar none. Basically, if I were to describe them, I'd say they're what you get if you mixed like 70s British glam rock and enka together. Maybe a little lighter on the enka. That doesn't come through in every song necessarily, but it comes through in a lot of them. But they're extremely like British glam rock. They had a hard time finding an audience when they first debuted. They got kind of misclassified as Visual Kei because they really went in on like the whole Ziggy Stardust thing for a while and did like heavy makeup and whatnot. They eventually found popularity, and I mean, in the late 90s, they did a tour for their album Punch Drunkard, which was 113 dates that lasted almost an entire year of just going around Japan. Like, there was nothing even international about that. And I think a big reason why they're not popular here is because, unlike a lot of other acts, they've never, that I know of, played in America. And they've never really tried to make, inroads here. So just a real quick thing from one of their music videos here. Sorry, I had to cut it before the chorus because I really wanted to get the horse in there.
Good.
Thank you. And of course, they have a game too called Perfect Performer: The Yellow Monkey, which is really just a rhythm game, to be honest. There's no crazy FMV stuff mixed in it. It's just a really straightforward rhythm game.
Are those really bad CG interpretations of the band members?
They are. For some reason, even though I kind of recognize that they're probably pretty bad, like, I think kind of certain aspects of them were captured pretty well. Maybe if you like close your eyes and, unfocus your eyes and smear Vaseline on your TV or something. That is a chicken getting thrown at the singer there. It's kind of hard to tell, but I wish I could say there was more to this as a game. It's just like, if you like the band and you like their songs, you get to play through 7 songs. You get to pick...
Only 7?
Only 7. Wow. But you do get to, unlike Stolen Song, which throughout the main game of Stolen Song, you just get guitar parts. There's a 2-player mode where you can pick a drum part. In this, you can pick any instrument, even vocals. And it has like member voice clips in it and stuff, encouraging you. Like, there's some fun to be had if you like the band, but if you don't know them, you'll probably get bored of it very quickly. But it does have some extremely strange stuff that they did with the backgrounds.
Oh, that looks
that doesn't get annoying at all.
Oh my God.
They never stop coming out of the subway cars. It just continues until the end of the song.
It's like a clown car, except it's filled with dogs. So was this a full price release? This looks like a budget game.
It does look like a budget game. I actually don't know what the retail price on it was, if I'm being totally honest, but I mean, probably. And I mean, it was a pretty late PS1 game, so maybe not. I don't know. I should have looked that up, but...
I do think a few Yellow Monkey songs have appeared in, like, I don't want to say Bimani, but like some of the Bimani knockoffs.
That would be interesting if they did.
Like all the Jalico Moroccan Megastage games. I think there's one in Stepping Selection, but I'm not sure.
I'll have to check that out. And they actually have one kind of sort of also game that I'll just mention briefly. This thing is just one of those multimedia games that isn't really a game, where you're just kind of making a video. And it's a cross-promotion between them and a science fiction movie called Transmission that came out the previous year, that was directed by a guy who had directed some of their music videos, and one of their songs was used as the theme song. So there isn't really much to say there, but it sure does exist, and don't buy it, because you'll play it like I did for 5 minutes and be like, well...
Wow, it's like a Sega CD game. Cool. Okay, you probably know these guys. Who doesn't know Larkin CL? Anyone? You know the theme to Full Metal Alchemist?
If not, you're going to hear it in a minute. Here it is.
Yes.
Please stop smoking, Hyde.
Never. He'll never stop smoking. He has enough money to just have all that shit taken care of for him.
Yeah, so I'd say Lark, would you say they are like the biggest Japanese band, late 90s, 2000s?
Probably, if I'm being honest, yeah, because the Yellow Monkey definitely kind of broke up for the first time. They're back together now in like 2001, and they're leading up to that, they weren't doing much. So yeah, Lark kind of stepped in there, I feel like. And for anyone who doesn't know them, I don't know how to describe their sound to you, to be honest. Like they kind of go all over the place.
Like the early stuff sounds very U2, I
You
think.
think?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I can see parts of it, parts of U2 in there, but you should just listen to their catalog
It
because they've
is-
got a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, Hyde is pretty multi-talented.
And they've toured maybe not a lot, but they've played dates in the U.S. So I feel like Western people know them. Like if you're into games and anime and stuff like that, there's a good chance you saw them when they played at like Otakon or something like years and years ago.
Who's played Oendan? The original.
Oh yeah, Oendan. That's right. They were in. They had. Was
Well,
it Ready
it was
Steady
a-
Go?
Yeah,
Was it
Ready Steady
Oendan?
Go is the last song.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm sure it's a cover, but But they were signed to Sony, and Sony in the late 90s pushed them hard.
They did.
Like, they were in commercials for Sony products all the time. They did the theme song for the 1998 Godzilla movie, the Japanese version.
Oh, that's right.
And that was a Sony release, so it's like, we'll get our
Dang it.
band to tie in with it.
You guys
Meanwhile,
are-
we got Puff Daddy.
You guys remember Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within? They did Spirit Dreams Inside that was tied in with that
Yep.
movie too.
And they had a PlayStation game published by Sony.
And there was a game before this called Toma Runner by Sony, and I'll show the clip in a minute, but it's kind of like a racing game where you are a person and not a car. And I actually had to not use myself playing for this one because I'm horrible at this game. It's so zoomed in that you kind of just have to know the turns of all the levels beforehand to even do any kind of good at it. So luckily for me, in the options, there is a thing you can unlock where you get to watch Hyde play because he was like a ridiculous fan of the first Toma Runner game, and that's why this existed. Like he has like an executive director credit on this game because apparently he had something to do with the planning. So this is him playing here.
Yeah, you don't have a lot of reaction time, do you?
No. And the whole thing is you have to like bounce off of obstacles and walls and stuff like that, which I just never quite really managed to get the hang of.
This looks like it would be a super impressive speedrun game.
Yeah. Maybe we need to get Hyde out to AGDQ or something, see if he'd be up for that.
Yeah, pay him, a couple $1 million, like all the money that would have gone to Prevent Cancer Foundation
It
just
just
to
goes
bring
to
Hyde
Hyde.
there.
Yeah, it just goes to him. And I read that after this was released in 2000, there was a contest held for this game that if you sent in an application that was in the guidebook and sent in video of you playing, you could be one of the 10 winners that was selected to play this game against Hyde. And it was held on like a cruise ship, like hosted by a radio DJ.
Nice.
And if you beat him, you got like one of his costumes that he wore in a music video, which is like, what's your over-under on the person who won that having sold it on Yahoo Auctions or something by now, or do you think they kept it?
I have no idea, but if anyone's selling TM Revolution's Hot Lemon outfit, I'll take it.
Everybody wants that
Oh, yeah.
outfit. And so, in terms of games that are specifically about bands, like where they are the actual subject of the game, there's obviously more we didn't cover. We just didn't have time for all of them. This is some of them for anybody who likes these bands and wants to track any of these down.
Yeah, mini Moni games. There were a lot.
There
of them.
were like 6 or something,
But
if I'm being honest.
We have to spend a good amount of time talking about one individual
Yes,
and what
you
he
guys
does with games.
gotta know who's coming here, right?
Oh boy.
All right, should we get the clip out of the way
Yeah.
first? All right.
GAC supports furries, at least.
This isn't exactly the most contemporary GOT song, but it is my favorite one, and now you kind of see why.
Yes, I should listen to Furious Shonen Ska Punk right now.
It's a good way of describing that song, actually. Furibi Shonen Ska Punk.
How old is GAC now? Oh no, he's an immortal vampire.
Yeah,
I
he's
forgot.
officially like millions of years old or something. There was, he used to be, I don't want to spend too long on this, but he used to be on a guest host on a show called Domoto Kyodai. And one time on his birthday, they brought out a cake with like 100 candles on it. It was just fire.
They went like on a date where he was talking about who was a vampire, one of Whisper Girls.
Not having any of it. I don't know if he's still.
He came out 10 years ago, and he's 46 this year.
Oh, he finally revealed his actual age. Okay.
Coming out.
Okay.
Yeah, Tetsuya Nomura was a big GAC fan. I mean, if you look at how GAC look at the time and then look at Final Fantasy, it's like, yep, that makes perfect sense.
So even more than like the games he's been in, which we'll get to in a second, I feel like this is almost like his biggest contribution to games, being a model for character designs. Whether he's actually, officially featured as the model for them or not.
Well, I mean, eventually he'd become canonized in Final Fantasy, but we'll get there.
We'll get there. We'll get there. So he has sort of, well, before we get into game, even before he was in games, so he did commercials for Metal Gear Solid 2 back when it originally came out on the PS2, and this is one of like 3 different ones that he did. So the gist of that is, you can even call it a commercial, is he's asking, have you heard of Metal Gear Solid 2? I haven't. And that's the commercial.
I mean, it does kind of match. It seems very Kojima-like.
It's on brand.
Yes.
Yeah, it's on brand for both Gokta and Kojima, I think.
Hey, look, a Taito game.
Yeah.
Oh,
Somebody's doing a panel about that on Sunday.
Oh yeah, you should come to Taito Games, 10 a.m. Sunday. So Bujingai is a character action game that was developed by Taito, and the concept was kind of done by Red. Red is a company you have played games from, but you probably don't know much about them. They're kind of an idea house. They make concepts for games and then kind of farm out the programming and things to other people. Like, they made the original concepts for Bonk and Sakura Wars and, yes.
Yeah.
And they came up with the idea for a Bujingai. Now, this is kind of, right smack in the middle when character action games are the hottest shit out there. Devil May Cry was huge, and everybody wanted the next big, not a mascot platformer, but a character action platformer. And so this is like GACT in early 2000s, peak of his, would you say this is the peak of his popularity? Because he hasn't really calmed. he's been around, but this is like the peak of all the,
It is.
fans fawning over him, like,
It is.
Gak-sama! And so they're like, he looks like a modern character action game hero. Why don't we just put him in a game? This did get published stateside by a really shitty publisher called BAM, who pretty much died immediately after this game came out.
Got to put them out of business.
Yeah, why? I guess they were banking on, anime fans and the yaoi fangirls of the time knowing who Gakt was and buying the game, and that didn't really go much of
No.
anywhere. I think I still have a Bujin Guy T-shirt from
Oh,
E3 one
really?
year. I need to find it.
Oh my gosh.
It's somewhere.
Wow. All right.
So, you can probably find this one pretty cheap if you just, want to play.
I don't think it did well anywhere particularly.
No,
is the feeling I got.
I think it's just, it has a pretty good Zentada soundtrack, but the gameplay itself is kind of aggressively mediocre because
Yeah.
Taito they didn't really have a lot of people making this sort of game, and it shows.
So what you guys probably most know him from in terms of games are these.
Oh boy, Dirge of
Cerberus.
Cerberus.
He played a character called Genesis Rhapsodos.
That is a Nomura-ass name if I ever heard one.
And from what I remember in Dirge of Cerberus, he was a very incidental character. Like, he was barely in the game at all. And then I'm sure Nomura had everything to do with this. And then in Crisis Core, they were like, we haven't done enough with that Genesis Rhapsodos. He's a real good character. And then they made him the antagonist, basically, for that game.
I wonder if he'll be in the FF7 remake.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
Oh, man.
And from what I understand, Gakt even wore in concert a version of this costume that you kind of see on that character over there on the right. So, yeah.
Meanwhile, Gakt is doing mobile game shilling now. He had this weird visual novel free-to-play thing called P.S. I Love You based on one of his songs. And the game is dead now, but I think if you have an Android system, you can probably find the APK somewhere, but the servers don't work. It's off all the storefronts, so I can't really tell you how it plays because, digital games, it vanished. Can't play it. But, man, that image is pretty powerful right there. Look at him staring wistfully into the sky and that silhouette of a girl. Maybe it's you. Also, he's totally shilling for PUBG Mobile in Japan now. You can actually get a voice card of him. And man, look at him all decked out for that chicken dinner right there. Oh, baby. It's Gakt. I think I'm trying to remember. Yes. I don't play PUBG.
Yeah,
I'm
you
sorry.
are asking the wrong people for information
Oh,
about
God.
PUBG.
I'm trying to remember. Was it a skincare ad or was it an indigestion ad I saw him on for the
Just recently.
last time I was on the subway?
He's been in probably a million different commercials at this point. I think Gakt has just evolved into a commercial at this point in his career.
Yeah, he also did a series of Let's Plays sponsored by Nestle, and I think it was called like Game Center Gakt or something of that sort.
Or just Game Center, maybe even weirdly. It definitely had the words Game Center. in
Yeah,
it.
I watched some of them, and Gakt really sucks at video games for the most part.
As far as I can tell, the official videos are no longer on YouTube. The only ones you can find are like a channel that's like translated them into Italian and has some of them, so you're watching them with Italian subtitles, but there are still some of them around from what I could tell. Maybe not all of them, because this went on for like a year.
Yeah.
All right.
I just remember watching the Mega Man 2 one and wanting to
Yeah.
grab my monitor and be like, how are you this bad at Mega Man 2? You were a kid when this came out. You had to have played this.
You know just as well as I do that Gakt didn't play video games. That man did not play a single video game until they put that project in front of him. He was spending all of his time figuring out how he can be a vampire.
Yeah, something like that, yes.
All right. So we also have kind of a miscellaneous thing that is game tangential with everyone's favorite drunk Terry Bogard.
Oh, yeah.
So the Fatal Fury anime, of which there were, 2 OVAs in a movie?
2 OVAs in a movie, yes.
Yeah, so this had some kind of musical involvement from the 2 acts that you see here. Kazukiyo Nishikiori from a Johnny's group called Shonen Tai
Oh, Lord, Johnny.
voiced Terry Bogard, I think in all the iterations of the anime, and he also sung the ending song for the movie. And Z-Kill, they were a Visual K band who, I'm not sure if they're one of those that has made like a resurrection since then, but they were kind of like late 80s to mid 90s.
Yeah, they were popular for the time. So
Yeah.
I had a Japanese friend who was like really big fans of Z-Kill at the time when like they were at their peak, and it was announced they were doing songs for the Fatal Fury anime, and that's more or less how she got into fighting games. She was just like, I'm gonna watch this anime that has a song by my favorite band. Oh, hey, this Fatal Fury thing is pretty cool. Let me check out the games. And all of a sudden, bam, into fighting games.
I think their song was in the second OVA, and it was used as Tony's theme or something. It was the piece of music from them in the Fatal Fury anime.
By the way, pick up the remasters from Discotech. That set is really good.
Yeah, no, they're entertaining. I mean, at least if you like Fatal Fury anyway. I guess maybe if you don't, I don't know if there's anything there for you.
I'd say they're pretty entertaining regardless.
Okay, fair enough.
That's just my personal opinion. And I think we've got
That is what we've got.
we've got some time afterwards. So if any of you have questions, comments, or why, yes, I see you here with your hand up.
Yes. I was waiting for Incredible Crisis on the PS1, and unfortunately I don't see it here. Tokyo Ska Paradise Orchestra.
Okay.
I was aware of that. I was debating whether or not to include it because it's like we kind of want to do games where the band is kind of a prominent part of the game proper, because then we'd start like I debated getting into stuff like, the Dreams Come True Beatmania games and things like that, but there's a lot of stuff like that, and it would take forever to go through. It's just like, yeah, here's another Beatmania game with some Japanese bands in it. It's Beatmania. You know what Beatmania is.
We didn't want to turn this into the Beatmania panel. You maybe are qualified to talk about that, but I'm certainly
Oh,
not.
I really don't know that much about
Okay.
Beatmania. I'm fronting here. Yes.
So I did a stream where I was taking a look, I played the Sikimatsu game of that, and when I was looking to do it, I was like, oh, it turns out there's an MSX version of
Yeah.
it, because it does actually apparently have one of the songs, and it is marginally better.
It has a few. It has a few different songs. I can't recall which ones, but they made an MSX game version of it like the next year. They redid the art also in that version of it.
How's the scrolling?
It's an MSX. Take a guess. But also it did not sell anything really, and so there's people talking about how this is, well, I mean, it is somewhat rare. Like, it's not the most expensive MSX game by a mile, but I guess a lot of the stock of it was like ripped apart and used to make other MSX games. And so it became somewhat rare as a result.
Yes.
Is there any Japanese equivalent of how in the West there was Guitar Hero, Aerosmith, or Rock Band Beatles and stuff like that?
I'd say probably the Bimani stuff from the late 90s, early aughts, Paradise and things like that. They were really pushing a bunch of artists on a label called Avex Tracks. That was
Yeah.
that was
Tying
the
into
big
TK.
the big Eurobeat push.
And I don't think there were really any that specifically had an artist name attached to them, right? Like
Well,
there wasn't.
there was a Dreams Come True.
Oh, specifically like a Dreams Come True version.
There was a Dreams Come
Okay.
True version of, and I think there were maybe a few home exclusive B-Money games that had a particular band attached. Like there is a mini Moni version of Shakato Tambourine, but I don't know if there are really that many games, similar to Rock Band, where you just had a ton of bands coming together,
Yeah.
and they're all in this game. Like I think Konami basically just had agreements with groups like Avex Trax, where they got access to a whole bunch of artists, negotiating with every single label for like a big Japanese Rock Band style game. I feel like there is a lot of logistics that would make that near impossible.
Yeah, Japanese record companies are notoriously hard to deal with in terms of getting licensing for anything, which is why a lot of bands haven't done anything in the West.
Yeah, try doing anything with Johnny's. Oof.
Yeah.
What is your favorite rhythm game and why?
Favorite rhythm game? Here we go.
Oh God, I'm trying to there are. I haven't really given this much thought. I play a fair few rhythm games, but geez,
Did you play any yet this weekend?
not yet. No, my boyfriend there has been playing a bunch. Hi, Matt.
Hi.
Hi. What's your favorite rhythm game, Matt?
Beatmania.
Beatmania.
Oh,
I look at 7 key and I'm just like, oh, this is a little too intimidating. But lately, I've been thinking once round 1 opens near me, I might get more into Groove Coaster.
which one is the one that just looks like a washing machine?
Oh, that's my.
Okay.
You need gloves to play that one properly. Otherwise, your hands are just going to die.
I'm super basic when it comes to rhythm games. My favorites are probably just the Persona ones, to be honest, because they're
those
pretty
are awful.
But they're really playable, and I'm mostly in it for the music as opposed to the gameplay, I guess. So they have really great Persona remixes.
Yeah, I notoriously gave Dancing All Night a 5.0 on GameSpot, so maybe I just didn't have the same experience, but
That's okay.
I just the notes in the music just don't match, and I just found that to be not fun.
Sure.
Especially when the Hatsune Miku Project Mirai game came out around the same time, and I'm like, this game is a lot better. But that's just me.
Yeah.
Again, it's good that you mentioned the MSX version of Sekatsu, because I just remembered an apocryphal story that I want to get more sources for regarding another Japanese PC game with band input. Apparently, the people behind the theme music for Fist of the North Star, the very first theme,
Oh.
Crystal King?
Crystal King supposedly contributed, or at least I suspect the producer contributed the music theme to a game called Relics on the MS.
Huh.
Relics, which had a Famicom Disk System version, people are more familiar with. That version sucks.
Yes.
It's unfortunate. There are no lyrics, not even any vocals, of course, because it was early 80s. And I still want to figure out what is the story behind that. Did BothTech even have the money to license?
Is it thought to be a Crystal King song? Crystal King musically is fairly distinct. Is it just because it really sounds like their style if there are no lyrics or anything?
It's a poppy-ish style of theme music itself. It's completely incongruous with the game itself.
Okay.
And the going knowledge is that Crystal King supposedly contributed the music to it.
Interesting.
At least BothTech would claim that as they published it.
Wow.
Well, if you've played Japanese arcade games, you'll know that they didn't always respect music copyright a whole lot all of the time. Go try some Super Locomotive sometime, or the original Rainbow Islands release.
Anybody else?
Yeah, we got 5 minutes left. If not, we can wrap this up. We do
Yeah.
appreciate you all
Thanks,
coming.
everybody.
I know there's a lot. This is a pretty niche topic, and there's a lot going on right now, but we definitely appreciate you and all of your input, and this is something Brian is very passionate about, so.
Thanks for doing it with me, Heidi.
Oh, no problem. I love doing research. I'm just a little sad we couldn't pull video of that Laseractive Sekimatsu game.
Yeah, and please follow us on Twitter. If anybody wants to read more about the Yellow Monkey on my site, I am doing an album-by-album thing for basically their entire career, lyric translations, analysis, magazine interviews, everything. So if you like them or if you want to know more about them, please look at that stuff.
My favorite Japanese band is Bucktick, but I don't think they've ever been involved with video
I don't
games.
think so.
I'm also a big sucker for TM Revolution, so.
Aren't we all?
Aren't we all? Yeah.
All right.
Missed it. What was your, what did you just?
I'm sorry?
What was the?
I just walked back in. What did you say your favorite band is?
Bucktick.
No, I heard yours. Bucktick,
Mine is the Yellow Monkey.
All right, so that wraps things up. Oh, we got a hand
We
up.
got one more.
Yeah, sorry, I really had to use that. She's like, are there any new bands that you're into now? Like newer bands that you have here?
Oh, boy.
I honestly have not been keeping up with a lot of the new stuff. It feels like a lot of idle bands right now.
It's in my opinion, it's a little bit of a dark time for Japanese music, and it has been for a little while now. But I mean, I guess thinking about it, there are probably some that I can't quite bring to mind right now that I like. It's not that I'm opposed to newer music, but largely I listen to the bands that I always have and are still around.
Yeah,
and just
same.
continue listening to their new output, because for the most part it's all pretty good. I'm sure I have some new stuff in there. I just can't quite call it to mind.
Rate Your Music panel, but Rate Your Music has a lot of suggestions for new bands.
Which music?
RateYourMusic.com. There's a million lists for.
Well, I know which bands I like. And stores
Yeah.
for new bands.
Wednesday Campanella. Wednesday's Campanella is good poppy, but not too idle plasticky bands.
I hate idol bands, except for BTS. So.
Yeah, all the K-pop is starting to take over Japan
Yeah.
too. It's quite a juggernaut.
If only Japanese record companies had made more of their stuff available online.
If only, but no.
There actually is quite a bit on Spotify, a surprising amount.
Sony tried. They released some TM Revolution and Lark albums in like the 2000s, but not all of them. And some of them were like really cut down
Yeah.
for reasons we don't know. It was, every time it's happened, like somebody has bungled it. I've heard, like, God, there was this one group out of San Francisco that I've heard blamed for, quote unquote, the death of Visual K. I don't know if that's entirely true, but.
I Laura's US release. I
Wait.
thought, like, I feel like she didn't do her own thing.
No.
Too far for the American.
Her English lyrics are just weird. I'm sorry, but they're just weird.
Yeah. And the video is switched to more English.
Yup. All right.
I think we're done here.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.